No one knows the importance of brand until they realize brand is what allows you to charge a premium price point for anything that you do. Pricing low is not the way to make money in the adult industry. In fact, the real way to make money in the adult industry is by having a distinguished brand that sets you apart. Today's video, we're talking all about branding in adults. Let's get into it. Building a brand is good for many reasons. The first of which is that you can charge more if your brand is established and means something to your fan base or audience. The second of which is that it builds trust. When someone sees my name, Melrose Michaels, they know they can give their credit card and they're going to get what they purchased from me because I've established trust with my audience and with my fan base. This is the kind of thing, and these are the kind of components that make brands so important. Which leads me to the question, how do you brand yourself as an adult creator? The first step of this is really understanding the brand you want to build. You want to know what things you want to associate your brand with. Brand isn't so much what you say to a bunch of people, it's really what you associate with. So you want to associate your brand with the things you want it to be remembered for, and you want to distance or disassociate yourself from anything you don't want your brand to be remembered or associated with. A great way to start an exercise around brand is to think of colors, words, terms, all the things you would want associated with your brand. Is it playful? Is it bold? Is it sarcastic? Is it funny? Is it witty? You can also define your brand's values. Is your brand really empowering? Is it very creative? Content with these kind of brand values might look like discovering myself alone in my room, empowering, or it might look like a cosplay or really extreme set design or cinematography, creative. This is how you associate these things with your brand. Now, before we move on, because I really want you to understand the brand that you're building, let's do a quick exercise. After you've listed everything you want your brand to be associated with, I want you to create a one-sentence statement that communicates that effectively. So, for example, you might want to be the go-to fantasy for your fans, but you want to incorporate your actual branding into it. So for me, in my specific brand for Melrose Michaels, that might look like being the redhead girl next door go-to fantasy for all of my fans. That implies that I'm the redhead, I'm the country girl, and I am the girl next door. These are the things I want associated with my brand. Now next, I want you to really think about your target audience. Your target audience is who you want to communicate that message to and attract them to your brand and attract them as consumers of adult content because you want to be branded as an adult creator. This kind of gets our feet wet into niches and how to discover your niche and build it out. And I do a whole exclusive video inside CEO Society, our private free adult creator community, on how to discover and build out your niche. So if that interests you, the link to ceosociety.app is listed in the description below. That video will help you discover and break down your niche and really dial it in. However, part of that video goes into this topic that I'm talking about now, which is knowing and discovering your target audience. You want to think about all the things your ideal consumer of your content would be into. For me, with the Melrose Michael brand, they probably like country girls, they probably live in the country, they probably like farm life and animals, they probably are really outdoorsy, they might hunt or shoot guns, for example. They definitely like redheads, and they really like that girl next door aesthetic and vibe. So knowing all of that, where would I find those fans? How do I build out that consumer profile and that target audience? Well, if I know they like those things, then I need to be in those places where they're likely to be. So they're probably in country locations. So I should target locations that aren't cities like Chicago and New York or LA. They probably spend time doing outdoorsy things. So maybe I'll incorporate hashtags or keywords that relate to the outdoors or the things they might be doing. Or I'll go searching in those keywords and tags to find fans to follow and DM because they're going to like my kind of content. But I can target them in that way if I think intentionally about how to target those fans by building out their consumer profile. You want to target the audience you're trying to attract. This doesn't happen on accident. This happens on purpose, guys. Now, you're going to also want to consider creating a visual identity to your adult brand. What colors are they going to see? What presets on all of your Instagram pictures are you going to use that create continuity across everything you post online? What kind of intros or outros to your explicit videos might they expect? Maybe you always start your video a certain way, and that's very significant or specific to the brand that you've built. Maybe you say a certain thing in all of your content that relates to your brand. Maybe you use a certain symbol or elements that's physically in your content, like a neon sign in the background or something to that effect. Maybe you never wear lingerie. Maybe you always wear lingerie. These are the things that are going to make your adult brand significant and specific to you. Now, all of those things are going to play into your visual identity, but the next thing you want to consider for your brand is your content strategy. So your brand needs to be something people can relate to, can count on, and can expect. Brand is really useful because when someone sees it from afar, they know it immediately. That is the power of brand. So when you see a Nike ad, for example, you know it because it'll say, just do it. It'll be some athletic aesthetic or component to the video or commercial or ad that you're watching, and it'll have a certain vibe and it'll be communicating a certain message. This is what you want your content to do on social and in the explicit realm on your adult platforms. Think about what you want to communicate to that target audience. Think about the visual identity that goes into all of the content across all of your platforms. What does it look like? What does it feel like? What is the mood? What is the tone? What kind of music might play in the background? All of these things should trigger someone to remember your brand. I use the same kind of intro music in all of my teasers. I think of this the same way that I think of Netflix or Hulu when they have that tone at the beginning when you turn on the app. When you open up Netflix, it goes boom, boom, and everyone knows it. I have the same teaser music in my trailer videos because I want it to be recognizable. And it's not on copyright, and I don't want to pay for a bunch of non-copyright music. But this is something that now gets very associated with my brand, and you can do the same thing. Now, when you're developing that content strategy for your brand, you should be bringing in these same elements, the fonts that are the same, the color and visual elements, the way you filter or apply color presets to your photos or to your videos, whether that's explicit or whether that's safe and work in nature. But your content strategy needs to bring in those visual elements to all of the content you create. And you're going to leverage that content strategy for this next part, which is going to be building your social media presence so that you are an easily recognizable brand. That means that you want the same fonts, colors, visual identity on your social media profiles as well as in your explicit content, like we mentioned. This is something that's going to take time to do, but you want to communicate these messages visually, audibly, and in text all over social media. So your social media profile picture should have the same colors that you're using everywhere else. Your social media bios should have the same text and the same messaging you're trying to communicate to your fans and to your target audience. Now, when you do content and create social content, you should be creating social content that is going to land in places that your target audience will exist and be seen. This is how you're going to get that exposure and leverage the power of brand. Now, once you've done all of that and you've gone through this branding process and you've worked through this exercise, you can begin making these micro changes to build your brand and establish your brand if you don't have a brand identity already. You don't necessarily need to start by doing everything at once. That's so overwhelming and also a waste of time. You don't want your initial branding or your rebrand, if that's something that you're doing, to totally take over all of the actual workload you have as an adult creator. You still need to be creating explicit content. You still need to be posting it. You still need to be DMing fans. You still need to be doing the work that you do as a creator. But you can start to make these little tiny changes to brand yourself online throughout that process. So maybe it starts with picking your profile picture, and this profile picture is going to include your face if you are not a faceless creator, given. And with that picture of your face, you want to use a filter or adjust your coloring that's going to highlight the color and visual identity of your brand. And then you're going to want to take that profile image and you're going to want to put it across all of your socials. And all of those images for your profile should be the same. So on your Twitter, your Instagram, your TikTok, your what have you, all of those profile images should be the same one. This is going to be how you start to become very recognizable in your adult creator brand. So that is one small step you can start taking right now while not overwhelming your typical workload as a creator. Then the next part, make sure all of your bios on social match. Make sure they all say the same thing and make sure they're communicating a specific message that you want communicated to your target audience or target end user. You want to make sure you're talking to the people that you want to attract. So many creators are not actually doing that. So begin making these small changes and building out your brand or rebranding yourself while you're going through your typical creator workload and workflows. Once you've done that and you've established yourself, you're well on your way. And then you can come back to this video and you can make incremental changes until you feel really good about the brand that you've built as an adult creator. Now, if you're still struggling with how to build your brand or what elements you should consider or want to work through more questions, go to GPT's AI and ask GPTs to help you formulate your adult brand. It is so good at this. You can ask it to give you questions to help you identify the brand that you should build. And it's going to give you these clarifying questions to help you get some clarity in that head of yours. Sometimes when we're so creative as people, we tend to not do these very structured, rigid tasks or go through these processes. GPTs can help you with that. It's not just your creative tool, but it's also a tool you can use in your adult business in so many ways. So if you're interested in that, you can click the link down in our bio for GPTs and leverage that for your creator business so that you can work smarter and not harder. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.